everyone. You're listening to a special crossover episode of Heaving Bosoms, in which 4 new best friends recap a romance novel while digging into all the book accomplishes and giggling together. We just had our first trivia night for patrons, and it was a blast. Thank you so much to all the super fun pals who came out to play with us. I'm so excited for next month already. Erin and I had such a wonderful time teaming up with Craig and Andrew from the Overdue podcast this week. Start to finish, it was a joy. On their podcast, they discuss books that you've been meaning to read, but just haven't gotten around to yet. They've done everything from classics to children's books, so there's definitely something for everyone. For romance and romance adjacent, check out their episodes on 50 Shades of Grey, Twilight, and Outlander. I also really enjoyed their Tom Sawyer episode. Random, I know. Follow them on Twitter at OverduePod and check out their website, overduepodcast.com. So, to usher them into the world of great romance, we read Moonglow by Kristen Callihan. We figured we couldn't go wrong with Callahan's action-packed brilliance and werewolves. Here we go.
Oh, hey. We're recording now.
We're here. We're recording.
Good start so far.
Hi, Craig and Andrew.
Hi, Melody and
Erin.
We're here. We're doing Overdue Bosoms. It's happening.
Overdue Bosoms.
The best crossover name that I've ever heard of.
About the bosoms that you've been meaning to discuss.
That's right. All of them, frankly. Hey, Erin, are these the first dudes we've had on the show?
No, we have had Cole on the show several times, Melody.
Oh,
but yes,
I meant with both of us.
This is the first dude crossover we've ever done, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, this is certainly the first time we've had specific, romance novel reading guests on our show. We've had folks who have read romance novels, but it has been a perennial weak spot of ours. So this is a really exciting opportunity.
Yay.
Yeah, right. Because mostly we've read pretty bad stuff.
Sounds like it.
Fair.
What have you read? Lay it on us.
So all 3 50 Shades books, of course.
Okay.
A wonderful starting point.
All 3 of them.
All 3 of them.
Cool.
And
we
then,
had to celebrate our 50 anniversary episode somehow.
See, so I don't know if y'all know, but the number 50 is in our 50th episode, the number, and then it's also in the book 50 Shades of Grey.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that was kind of the thought process there.
That seems like a tenuous connection to me, but I'm glad you went with it.
I think we enjoyed the Twilight books more. We got more out of them anyway. I think there were more character discussions to be had. That we had fun with.
Romance light, I would categorize it as. I don't know if that's right. I don't know enough about the genre. And then the only other strictly genre-y romancy thing that I think we did that I can remember is Stealing Christmas by Alexa Riley, which was also a nonstop thrill ride.
Let me guess. Did you do that around December-ish?
So it was December 19th.
What
and
happened?
So the holiday of
American Christmas.
Christian Christmas is on December 25th, and so we read the book near that date.
Thank you.
That time.
You're
brilliant.
You might be noticing a theme of obvious reasons to do things on our show.
Listen, we do the same thing, so I can't throw stones.
So is this going to be released on a full moon or something? Is there is there anything we can tie this to?
I'm just going to look it up right
August. Let's see.
Just to see.
I bet. No, the full moon is on August
Excellent.
22nd, so it'll be not the full moon. But
well, I was so excited when y'all wanted to do this crossover because I don't know, it's the first time we've been approached by a dude book podcast, which is very exciting.
And a non-romance podcast, right? We haven't done anything with any non strictly romance only podcasts, I don't think either.
Yeah. Not crossovers, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were trying to choose a book to gift to you to make sure that we were shepherding you into romance.
That's really
in
part
a very
of what
nice
I wanted.
way.
So yeah, I'm glad that was part of the thought process on your end too.
Absolutely. And I feel like Kristen Callihan, her whole Darkest London series, actually historical paranormal is a genre I didn't know I liked until we started this podcast. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh my God, they're perfect for each other. But then also, Kristen Callihan really gives like a meaty plot.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
she's
like
there's interested
always,
in plot.
There's always so many things going on. And so I figure that even if somebody doesn't like romance, there's still going to be the suspense. There's still going to be mystery, all those sorts of things. But then you also get the banging.
You get the banging. I loved many of the tropey things that happen in this book. Like I like how everybody says this night instead of tonight. And I'm like, yes, that's awesome. That's how you know you're in olden times.
It's true.
I also enjoyed both the world building, but then also the incredibly specific details that are in there only to set up like the central mystery and then like the epilogue so they can both work. It was I enjoyed it a lot.
Yep. And I just need you to know that where we need to set you up fully. And so Erin, I would like for you to explain to them what time period we're in.
No, don't do this to me. Okay. I just met them. Listen. I want them to think I'm smart and cool.
You are. This is hilarious.
I don't understand time periods very well. So when something is a historical romance novel, I just call it quote unquote England times, unless it happens in Scotland, and then it's Highlander times. And then if there's an air of mystery around it, I call it Sherlock Holmes times. And this is irrespective of the year. So
this is absolutely Sherlock Holmes times.
This is squarely in steampunk Sherlock Holmes times. And I don't care who the queen is.
A fog.
Yes. Tiny
That's
hats.
wonderful, though. That's
Callihan is doing you a favor. She does tell us who the queen is.
Yes.
A bunch
which is useful.
Well, and if you can add, I think you know what year it is, because you know like when he was born and how old he is, but I did not do that math.
No, why would you do that math? There's too much banging going on.
It's like it's 1800 and and that's as specific as I think you need to know. But Sherlock Holmes Times is excellent shorthand, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so y'all read the first of these, right?
Yes.
Firelight. We did an episode on Firelight.
Okay. So like we do not often dip into the second in a series, though sometimes like I don't know, when it's something like, you know, Discworld and Terry Pratchett, we're just like, I don't know, we're just gonna dive in there and get our feet wet.
My heart.
Sure.
But with this one, we were specifically looking for like a sexy supernatural book, I think, when y'all suggested that possibility. And so what really worked for y'all in Firelight? What should we know about that book coming into this discussion? I know Andrew and I want to talk about Callihan a little bit, but I think it's useful to like set up the series that we're in based on the first book.
Sure. Okay. So first of all, if you want to stop here, listener, and go back and listen to our episode on Firelight, you should. It's good stuff. It's Craig and Andrew approved.
Yeah, we approve it. I approve this message.
But what I like about this series in general is that it really does, it just like completely dives into what both historical and paranormal, what both those subgenres can do for you. And it marries them in a way that I think works really, really well. So in Firelight, the heroine, we find out in this book that all three sisters are elementals, they're called. And the heroine in Firelight can make fire out of anything. She can set anything ablaze. And it has been a big issue in her life. And like she ruined her father and it's a whole big thing. And she is forced to marry. It's sort of a marriage of convenience, kind of forced marriage trope. She's forced to marry this like dark and stormy duke who like everybody's super afraid of. And he wears a mask.
Wears a mask. Always, the whole book is always wearing a mask, which was very jarring for some of us.
Continue. There's a beat in this book in Moonglow where someone's like, whoa, he's not wearing a mask.
Yeah. So we find out they then like start to get to know each other. There's this scene in which she eats a pear or something at one of their first dinners together.
That's the sexiest fruit.
Really good stuff. It actually started this whole challenge in our Facebook groups about like all of the HBs like trying to sexily eat fruit at each other.
It doesn't work in real life.
It doesn't work. That was the gag. Yeah, and then, there's a happily ever after. We find out that they're meant to be together because her power is the only thing that can save him from his malady, and it's great. And, the other reason I love Kristen Callihan, and the reason that I usually try to push her stuff onto other people, is that she can write an action scene like not a lot of other people. All of her books are very action-packed, and they're very cinematic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's what's going on. And in the Firelight book, this super big dick nose asshole, Ian, a werewolf of Marquis of Northrop or something, he is trying to steal Miranda out from underneath Archer because he and Archer go way back. They have a big feud. It's very sexy, very like, are you going to kiss? Are you going to fight? Like, I don't know. So that's how we set up here. Miranda is like, stay away from Ian, everybody.
I have a question.
What's up? Please, Erin.
Erin has a question.
I did not re-listen to our episode on Firelight before reading this book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We were kind of into Ian, right? Even though he was the
Erin,
villain?
you specifically were into Ian.
Okay. Because I was reading this book and I was like, I was into this already. I'm pretty sure I already was into this. And then I was like, maybe I'm just rewriting history to like make myself feel better. Because he was the villain in the first one. But I remember succumbing to his wolfy charms.
He wasn't the big bad though. Like there was a different character that got defeated.
He was just an antagonist. He was not the big bad. Yeah.
So totally fine to be into his shit, and we're gonna get into his shit today.
Yeah, we're not apologizing.
That's true. And we want to talk about Kristen Callihan a little bit, what we found.
Sure, let's talk about Kristen Callihan.
We like to do some author research when we can. When we're doing someone like Mark Twain or whoever, like usually there's a big old rabbit hole to dive down. More contemporary authors, it's interesting to just look at like what they're up to. Right.
Yeah, right. Because there's the thing about contemporary authors is there's never like scholarship on them. So you just have whatever information they uploaded to their HarperCollins website in like 2012 about like where they live and how many dogs they have. And like that's the entire thing.
Which paranormal fiction fandom wikis have like scraped that information for their own purposes.
Completely.
I certainly found a list of the books in this series on urbanfantasy.fandom.com.
There you go.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think it's important to note that wasn't this her first? Firelight was her first book. That was her debut. So this is her second.
Both in 2012, I think,
which
they were
is
released.
Yeah, which is a big. I'm always impressed by people who can write that much in that short of a time because I can't.
That's a hallmark of the romance genre because women are paid less, so you got to pump out more.
They write quick.
The wage gap. Hello, everyone. Feminism.
Well, I think what also happens that we've seen with other like multi-book series is you like have an idea and you think maybe it's a book, but then you have like as you're finalizing that and you're working through it with an editor and a publisher and whatever, like you find characters who are more interesting, who you want to talk about more, or like you end up with more book than will fit in a single book. And so that's how you get going on like a big multi-book series. And I'd like having not read Firelight, I don't know, but I know that like characters from this are running around in the background of Firelight. Like characters from Firelight are running around in the background of this. Like it feels like it was probably planned to be this way from the start.
Yeah, generally they are. Yeah, that's also a hallmark of the genre is that you're always setting up book 2, book 3, book 4 as the series go because we know what. Romance readers are voracious, and so we always come back.
And you also don't know what's going to be a hit or not, so you want to be able. You don't want to be caught unawares. You want to have other stuff in the hopper to capitalize on that. Yeah,
9 titles in the series, 7 full books, 2 0.5s, Andrew, I think.
Like novellas written later that slot in.
Yeah, like prequels
in between the
and
full books. Yeah.
in betweensies. Yeah.
That's also very common.
Yeah.
And it was funny. I found a Goodreads Q&A with her, and everybody, like a bunch of people are like, will there be a book about this minor character from Moonglow who I don't think is in any of the other books yet? And she's like, good to know you like him.
No, yeah. Absolutely. Well, it's funny because Callihan also writes, like, because some authors have a subgenre that they really, really stick to. And she's way more versatile. So she writes historical paranormal. She writes contemporary sports romance. She writes contemporary rock star romance, right?
Yeah.
And there's like a CEO. There's like some BDSM fun stuff that she's written. So she is one of those writers who like sort of, they go off in all kinds of directions. And a lot of times they need a palate cleanser. And so they're like, okay, I need to get out of this world for a minute. I'm burnt out on this world. I'm going to write book 7 for Darkest London. And then they'll come back.
Yeah, because I was on her website. There are a ton of books, all with very sexy men on them. Some shirt optional is the dress code for the
Most
covers
of
of these
always
books.
optional.
Especially when you're
Abs
a rock
are not
star
optional?
Yeah.
But yeah, the Darkest London stuff was buried a little bit more than I thought, because like the last one came out in 2016, Forevermore, and she's been super prolific since then. And so it's just like not even often I'd find that people have written one trio of books or like one series, and then they just inevitably become the most known for that, and they come back to it over and over again. You go on the website and you know exactly what they are most like their most popular series is, but there's not the case for Kristen Callihan, at least not. Yeah,
I'm not even sure what her most popular series is, because I think she has different people that gravitate toward the different subgenres. And of course, people who love everything she writes, 'cause she's fantastic. But I don't know that she has one like standout series that she's necessarily known for.
No, because they're all really good.
Because they're all great.
Like, she's so versatile. It's crazy. She's incredibly talented.
She has won some awards for this series, right? Like Firelight got Book of the Year from Library Journal, and Publishers Weekly was a Best Book of 2012. The ALA gave it a Romance Book Award in 2012.
And she's got multiple Rita Awards, including for one of the Darkest London books, Evernight, I think.
And none other than Diana Gabaldon of Outlander had a quote on the cover of this book.
Yeah.
So, and Ian's Scottish, so, Outlander vibes.
I would love to watch a Darkest London TV show with like 32-year-olds playing 58-year-olds. I just give me the Outlander-esque like Showtime series about Darkest London.
I would watch the heck out of that.
I think this would be a really, really, really good series for the screen. I don't know how it hasn't been optioned yet.
Anything else we want to talk about before we get into this book?
Not really. She's just prolific, and she comes highly recommended. And this book has werewolves in it, so
has
I think that's all you need to know. That's one of the things it has in it.
So, what was it like for Erin and Melody, like, to get back into this world? Had either of you read this before? Or are you coming to this with like, what expectations are you bringing in to revisiting Darkest London?
I will say that I had heard that Moonglow was the best one in the series from a couple of people. And I liked Firelight so much that I had purchased Moonglow a long time ago and then kind of never gotten to it. So I was really excited to read it because I had heard from several people that's the best one. I've also heard from several people that the third one, Frosty Schmerv, is the best.
Winter Haven.
There we go. So, people have different opinions, but I heard it was the best one, so I was super excited to get into it. And I also had a faint memory of a bad boy werewolf.
Yeah, the bad boy werewolf. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was just seamless because I feel like her world building is so distinct that I actually didn't need to reread Firelight or re-listen to Firelight. And it immediately sparked memories of what happened in the book. And that doesn't happen a lot. I have what we call a Swiss cheese memory. And so it's it's actually kind of amazing that I didn't have to do any revisiting because everything is just it's so vibrant, and it's like just a touch off of what you expect the trope is going to be.
Yes.
A lot of times.
Sure.
So it's much more distinct.
Well, and this book did a good enough job, and it didn't, I mean, this is always ends up being a little contrived feeling, but it did a good enough job of dropping, like, this is what you need to remember about this character or like this event from the first book. And some character's going to sum it up in one like expository paragraph for you, the reader, and then we will move on. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Something y'all mentioned in the Firelight episode a lot was that a lot of what she does in her world building, though, is through dialogue or at least like character voiced thought. Like she's rarely doing any sort of narrator voice lore dump. So there's stuff from the first book where, yes, Andrew, like, I think it's like 2/3 of the way through, Archer and Ian have a scene together, and it's like, yeah, here's one paragraph that describes why we hated each other in book 1.
Yeah, let me briefly set up our beef so we can
remember
work
that
toward
soul-sucking angel? Yeah. Like, it was very
He's
quick.
out there.
Yeah.
So it's pretty effective.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about her writing is that she does a lot of show, not tell.
Especially in a book with this much world building and this many details. She could really get weighed down.
Yeah.
So should we get into it? What's going on in the prologue? There's a prologue and a man has a problem.
Oh, Ian's with a sex worker.
They're both getting busy. This one comes out swinging.
Yeah. Oh, I'm all about it.
Yeah, a lot of stuff swinging in this prologue, if you know what I mean.
That's right, Andrew. So the Marquis of Northrop, Ian, is with yet another red-haired sex worker, and he's like really trying to get it done. But man, his heart's just not into it. And then his dick isn't into it. And it's a big embarrass. He's worried about it. This has apparently been happening.
The sex worker's very nice about it, though. She's very kind about it. She's like,
but clearly she tells everybody because it like hits the rumor mill all through London like immediately. So she's like nice to his face, but she goes back to her friends and she's like, you guys know that guy? Like Northrop? He couldn't get it up. And that's not very nice.
That's
Don't
not
kiss
very
and tell,
nice, lady.
Sex workers.
Especially after he gives you that please keep this secret tip. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that was a giant
invitation
tip
to not keep it a secret, though.
True.
Fair enough.
How else are we going to check the powerful if we don't talk to everyone about their sexual exploits and their failures therein?
I hear you. Let's take the gentry down at the knees.
Yep.
Why stop at the knees?
Yeah.
Idiot.
And then our
Daisy.
pal Daisy, thank you, Erin.
Daisy Meg.
She is newly widowed. And not newly enough. Like, she's just out of her mourning period from a really, really abusive marriage.
She'd been with him for 6 years, right? Something like that. But it's been 366 days, 10 hours, and 15 minutes since he died.
I'm so mad that you're doing this in front of our new podcast friends.
That was a solid rent joke, and I am into it.
Well, you can share my embarrassment that she made me tell you about England Times and how dumb I am about history.
I love England Times.
Erin,
so.
it's charming. I don't know what is wrong with
It's
you.
true.
I found the rent joke charming. We're all even.
There you go. Okay, so now Daisy Meg is ready to hit the town because she was in an abusive relationship, and we find out in that older relationship she was really shamed for having any interest whatsoever in sex or her body or pleasure or anything. And so she's like, I am done with this. I'm going to a party, and I might have sex with someone in an alley. Okay?
I'm going to have a tup.
That's right. I'm going to have a tup in an alley. Yeah. So I think that's where we are in the prologue, right?
Yep.
Yes.
And then the inciting incident, a werewolf attacks.
Werewolf attack.
Yes.
Yeah, people get attacked by something. We don't know what it is, but the guy who we know is a werewolf smells like a wolfy smell. So we kind of like you get a pretty good idea of what's going on pretty early.
The book is called Moonglow,
Yes.
so that also is a pretty
Moonglow,
big tip.
yes. But yeah, there are a lot of people who are killed. Daisy is hurt, but she is not like eviscerated like everybody else on the scene is.
The only reason that she's not eviscerated is that she's covered in a thick layer of branches and vines that are growing out of a London alleyway, which I have an issue.
Oh, hey, HBs. I don't know if you've heard, but we have a Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, you get over 150 bonus episodes, most of which include Erin, videos of regular episodes, author hangouts, and so much more. Do you want to hear Erin and I recap every single episode of Crash Landing on You? What about a little film called Psycho Stripper? Do you want more recaps of ridiculous Thanksgiving and other holiday books and movies? And how do you feel about Naima Simone and I recapping amazing reality TV? All of that and more is on the Patreon. There's so much content at your fingertips as soon as you sign up. Seriously, hours and hours. Anyway, it's patreon.com/Heaving Bosoms Podcast if you want to check it out. And of course, that link is in the show notes. Keep being a badass.
With everyone who didn't immediately ask questions. He just like shredded those vines and then he was like, gotta take this busty lady home. No questions, Ian? None? How?
We're like 4/5 through the book before he finally thinks to ask about why she's a fucking earthbender. Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't.
We're pretty far into the book before she asks about why she's a fucking earthbender. Like, you yourself, Daisy, be like, why am I trapped in a tree? Yeah,
people should be more interested in this. Like, there are things that happen in front of Ian's eyes, like twice, and he's like, it must be imagining it. Weird.
Yeah, that weird. When he finds it out later in the book, he's like, whoa, I really did see a root spear a dude through the chest. What the fuck?
To be fair to him, though, in both instances, he was in a panic state. You know,
he was in a state.
I could understand him not trusting his own mind.
That's right. He's got a lot going on too, our Ian. So he finds her. Everybody else is completely dead, and she wakes up at his house with his housekeeper, like bandaging her and stuff, like in her bath, maybe.
She did get bit. She got bit, which is important.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we find out right now in the bath.
Bite mark on her neck. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And she's really worried because when she finds out later that it was probably a werewolf, she's like, "Oh noes, I'm a werewolf now." And thankfully, that's
I love how she just
how
casually works that into conversation. Is like,
yeah,
how become werewolf? Like, just in case anyone wanted to know, like, just kind of like, I don't know if I got bit by a werewolf. Like, very casual.
If one were to become bitten by a werewolf in some way, hypothetically,
yes. Exactly.
So she comes out of her bath, Tuddy's bath, in Lord Northrop's house or whatever.
Okay, it's and Tuttle and Northrop, Craig.
Oh, Tuttle, excuse me.
I just imagined Tuttle in my head is played by the Mrs. Potts, but like the human version from Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
Played by the cartoon Mrs. Potts.
Yeah, I mean, people, it's the cast of characters lives in my head, and I hire the actors that I want to hire, Craig.
Fair enough.
There's no guild in my head. I can just do what I want.
Those cartoon actors are not union. You don't have to pay them as much. So she comes out and she's like, "Oh, I'm in this rich old dude's house. That's kind of weird, but that was nice of him, I guess, for saving me." Mm-hmm. And then she runs into Ian and is like, "Well, he's kind of a snack. This is interesting."
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And they have like a few pages of talking to each other where both of them say out loud, like, if I had met you before, I would have remembered. Yeah. Is like the vibe that it boils down to.
Mm-hmm.
Because hot.
Because I would remember wanting to bang somebody this much.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I liked this first bit of characterization, which I think informs most of the banter of the book, where she's looking at him and thinking, like, wow, he's kind of hot. I would remember him. And she says, "You are too pretty to be a noble, A bark of laughter shot out, and Daisy felt a quirk of irritation. Damn her loose tongue. And like all of a sudden, we already know this lady says what she wants, whatever, or even stuff she doesn't want to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
But of course, they do sort of know each other, or they should, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they know of each other because Miranda, her sister, told her about this guy who like kind of kidnapped her and like tried to make her get with him instead of her husband. So she knows him to be a villain.
He did a bit of throw you up against a wall in an alley. Like, listen.
He did what we call on the show a light kidnap.
That's right.
Like a small,
like a
smidgen of like a little bit of a non-consensual nuzzle.
The most polite kidnap.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
So they know of each other, but obviously she doesn't know that this is who this guy is.
Basically, by the end of this conversation, she figures it out, right?
Yes. Oh,
well, because she has to clear up all of the nobility names. Because, like, in the previous book, he was going by the last name McKinnon.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about that briefly. And, like, his dead dad and he were, like, juggling different lordships for...
Yes.
We find out about that
what
a little
burden.
bit later.
They have so many lordships and titles. Like, it's just exhausting how much money and power these guys have.
There's a point in the middle of the book where he just like casually name drops Queen Victoria. Like he just knows her. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but he's her favorite of all of the
Yeah, she wanted him
werewolves.
to be Wolf King, but he's not.
It's true.
That's the thing. They have like human titles and also wolf titles. And like pretty
there's
much
like this whole like Harry Potter-esque like split government situation where you do have the normal like English government, but then also you have the shadow werewolf government.
Yes.
Well, as someone who is a quarter Scottish on my mom's side, I will say I love that it is a Scottish werewolf shadow government. It is not just a werewolf shadow government.
Craig, Scotland is free if you're a werewolf.
Yes.
If you're a Lycan, Scottish independence. The Queen can't
Vote
say
for
shit
independence.
You think Lycans went to see Braveheart and they're like, what are they talking about?
Yeah,
What
right?
is this?
Yeah.
We are free.
What's everybody so worked
we know
up
anything about
to you.
this.
Nonsense.
Guy died for nothing.
What if every Scottish MP who's for independence is a Lycan?
Whoa.
Think about it.
Whoa.
I'm liking this theory, Craig.
Oh no. Oh no. But the Scotlandness of it all does matter because these dudes are immortal, except for when sometimes they're not, because sometimes they do die, like his dad did die, and so did his grandpa. But like they juggle these titles, and they're like, since they're immortal,
They're like, I'll be your grandpa, you'll be my grandson.
yeah. And they keep just kind of going back to Scotland and then coming back and being like, oh, it's me's grandson instead of me. And so no one's the wiser.
Okay, so the thing that's important about this scene is that Miranda shows up because Daisy has sent a message to her being like, was attacked. And so Miranda comes and she's like, my sister, get away, you bad man. And Daisy asks her basically to like leave so that she can have a small chat with Sir Ian.
Bold scene.
I liked it a lot. So he sits down and he's very like, oh, I love it when a young lass, needs extra private time with me. And she's like, hey, stay away from my sister, asshole. She loves her husband. Leave her alone. And he's very like, how dare you say true things to me?
Yeah.
And he does like, he tries to intimidate her a little bit, but very sexily, and very politely.
Yeah.
He like goes and stands by the door and it's a brood and it's nice. And then she fucks off. She goes home.
Overall, these two scenes for me really worked in the sense that like, it's clear they have chemistry. They banter a lot. They make each other very hot and bothered. But she very easily and quickly, or not easily, efficiently leverages the entire first book to like negate any successful meet cute. She's just like, yes, they would fuck if they could, but actually they can't because there are reasons why they don't get along. very quickly.
Yes. Welcome to romance.
Yeah. Yes. Right.
Yes.
Well, then the other romancy thing that I clocked is Daisy's figure, which
Oh boy, is it an hourglass.
she has big boobies, big booty, but she's not a fatty, you know?
But just like the teeniest little waist on her.
No, we call this sculpted by the patriarchy.
Sculpted. That's exactly what it is. Like when I'm saying no fat chicks, it is coming from a place of being like, well, okay, society and what society finds attractive is the reason why this woman's body is the way that it is. And I guess that's true. Fine.
Yeah, she does have like a perfect bangin' bod, which
perfect
often happens in these books.
More like Donkest London, am I right? She has like
she does.
He does talk about her butt like a lot.
At one point, he like rips her like top off, and he can tell that she's been contained by the corset in a way that her body doesn't deserve. And he's like, you shouldn't have to wear this stuff. And she's like, yeah, I know. I kind of agree, but it's a little awkward.
I feel like the listener needs to know that he does rip off her bodice while in a carriage.
Yeah.
Because that is also a very romance thing.
We're going to talk about
We'll get there, but we need to cook if we're going to get there.
We do
the natural like bumping and jostling that happens.
Yes.
Yeah. So throughout this, like here's the thing. Ian finds out that the perfume that Daisy wore is the same perfume that the other lady who was super murdered in that alley was wearing. And it's also the same perfume from a victim before that nobody really knew about.
No one cares about her. She wasn't as hot.
Well, he did.
That's true.
He literally sniffed the corpses in the morgue to find this information out.
Days old corpses. You guys, corpses get really stinky after a couple of days. And he still found that perfume in there.
His nose is good.
I appreciated the description of how that works. Like you have to break through the obvious smells to get to the more subtle, glue smells.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and he had to sniff the first victim's clothes.
Yes.
Because that body was done.
Because the body was done, but the clothes had it. Yes.
That's right. They'd been squirreled away somewhere. Very aromatically contained.
And so Daisy has this, it turns out that she had a side gig. And I also really like this character note. Like when she was in her shitty marriage to Craig Moore is his name.
Sorry, everyone.
Wow. It's like you, but more. Yeah. And that's what makes it bad. Like you're the perfect amount of Craig.
I'm right at the top of the Craig you're allowed to have. Craig
more Craig than that, and it gets to be too much.
You're going to be in a 6-year terrible relationship.
So she had, so she would have financial independence and like an out if her obviously terrible marriage didn't work out. She had like a side gig designing and selling perfumes. And it turns out that the perfume that is like the common link with all these women who are getting murdered is one that her business partner like sold on the sly to somebody else. So there's this whole sequence where Daisy and then Ian also go hunting this guy down with the help of somebody who I think is from the first book.
Billy Fingers.
Mr. Bellyfinger. Wait. I do need real quick before we get to this, because obviously it's very important.
Sure, yes.
We need everyone to know that after he finds out about this perfume situation, that forces him to make sure she stays at his house.
Yes.
Because he is the only person who can possibly protect her.
That's true.
So we've got these sort of quasi enemies, right? Like they're at odds. And then we've got the forced proximity trope, which we love.
Well,
love a forced proximity.
And I do that's the other thing about her being an earthbender. And this is the only thing that bothered me at all is like a big part of the middle, like chunk of the book hinges on this thing where he feels this need to keep her safe and she feels this need to be kept safe. And I understand why in the like construct of a romance novel that is a thing that you like could like need to or want to have. Like it's like a reassuring thing. And it, I don't know, but that does continue after she kills a bunch of people with her earthbending powers. Yeah. Like to the point where it's clear that she is able to keep herself safe, like as well or maybe a little bit better than he can.
Right.
And like even after he hasn't discovered it yet because he doesn't realize till like the exact end of the book that she can do this stuff, but like she knows it about herself already. And she still like plays along with this like being kept safe thing. I don't know. It felt a little contrived in like a bad way, where the rest of the book feels a little contrived in a good way. So that's my one note, I guess.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah, I get that. I guess I didn't notice it as much because it's such a thing for werewolves in romance novels, which I've read enough that I can make a pretty good
It's a wild thing to
this.
be able to say. But
And
I'm glad
werewolves
that you can.
in the wild. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah,
Like
they're just
we're
out there.
experts.
Yes, we know a lot about this, guys.
Yeah.
But it's such a werewolf thing to be like, mate, keep safe. So like, I guess I didn't even notice it, but you're absolutely right. Andrew. I completely see it now that you've illustrated it.
Successfully or not, I think the other thing that tries to push back against that, and I think it comes off as like an Ian character note also, is the like werewolves handle werewolf business. Like there is
because they have their own government, correct?
have their own
Which means I'm sure they have their own like courts and like
trial by combat
a whole thing just for werewolves. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that I didn't mind the way that worked out is because I thought it was part of her character arc.
Sure.
Like she starts from the beginning being very beaten down by her abusive husband, not knowing who she is. She says that several times, finding out this thing about herself, not knowing how to control it, what it does, what it means. And then goes along with him to be like, okay, yes, you're giving me some sort of structure that I understand because patriarchy. So sure, you go off and be the big bad man. I will stay home and actually save the day because
Several
she
times.
does actually save the day because she is at home. And then at the very, very end, he's like, we're going to solve this big giant problem. I'm going to cure this disease, this incurable disease in Sherlock Holmes Times. And she's like, hold please. I'm going to go fix it myself.
Yeah.
And so at the end, she comes fully into herself and takes full agency of her future.
So it's a
And so I think,
purposeful.
I think it's a purposeful move that she goes along with the gender norms until she figures out who she is.
Because you would still, like, even if you realized you were an airbender, it probably would take a little while. Earthbender.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to
Get it
confuse my
right,
bending.
Andrew.
There's not an airbending sister. They have a waterbender, a firebender, and an earthbender, but no airbender.
Yeah.
I'm sure, you know what? There might be an airbending cousin.
Yeah, there's a lot of books. I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't a fourth sister out there somewhere.
But yeah, you would probably still need some time to like have that change your like learned behavior.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
So I totally get that. But it was just like in the moments where she does use it, it comes so like naturally and easily to her.
Sure.
Like it's not a like a magic system that she needs to learn
it's like
how to
a
use.
subconscious thing that she doesn't know how to do consciously. So yeah,
I
that
can
makes sense.
totally see both sides of that. But yeah, it was the only thing that occurred to me that I didn't completely 100% love about this show.
No, it definitely chafes. It chafes in the moment, but I also think it's supposed to.
Sure.
So before they go hang out with Billy Fingers, the main thing that comes out of that, they hang out at a bar where you're right.
They do.
Mel, he's like, you have to live in my house now. And she's like, well, that sucks. And he's like, but it's because I'm a werewolf. Watch me crush this beer can. And
he does.
We're gonna
He does crush a beer can to show his big bad werewolf strength.
And and she's like, also I have a super nose, and that's how I knew you followed me here from that funeral I attended of those people who got killed by a werewolf.
He's so turned on by that super nose too. He
Oh my
loves
God.
that he
He
can
loves
sniff
it.
out stinks.
That they can both smell the same stinks. Yeah.
Yes.
They can really connect on that level, you know? But also, has anybody thought about putting champagne in their boot black? Never would have thought about it.
Never thought about it. Can you
Wait,
imagine?
this is where we
Thing.
get the difference, though, between Lycans and werewolves.
Yeah,
though.
do you want to dig
yes,
into
yes.
that, Aaron? Go for it. How does it work?
Yeah, I didn't.
Erin.
What I
Okay,
didn't
here
mean
we
to
go.
do was this. So, if you are a Lycan,
Do you want me to do it?
I know. You need to let Erin do this.
Yeah, you gotta do it.
so when you are a Lycan, you can change into a werewolf at will. You're more powerful when there's a moon around, but you don't do it all the way, because if you do it all the way, then you can't change back, because once you totally let your wolf
never comes back
out, then the wolf's gonna stuff you in the sunken place and you never come back. So you never go all the way, and if you do go all the way, then you become werewolf.
You come a whale.
Also, yeah. So, and then also, then you're both of them are immortal,
after they turn 30.
But only once they turn 30. And then if you do have a disease before you turn 30, you will have that disease forever, but it will not kill you.
And it's gonna go slower.
Yeah.
That's it.
The only thing that you missed is that Lycans can apparently regenerate like starfish when they have their limbs cut off.
Like geckos and starfish.
Yes.
Everything but if you cut off the head, they're dead.
Yeah, like Highlanders.
Head is bad.
Yes.
Yeah, like Highlanders.
They're like Highlander starfish.
Except there can be a lot of them instead of just
I
the one.
did appreciate the moment where she's like, so like, why does the moon give you like superpowers? And he's like, I don't know. He's don't know.
Yeah. Magic.
That's really,
Mother Moon.
Mother Moon. It's like, what I did really like about the werewolf stuff overall is that, and he says this, it's 2 souls in one body. And it's presented, and throughout the book, it's presented this way, where like the wolf is one creature and the man is another creature, and they have like overlapping but occasionally competing interests. And like that is a thing throughout the book that I think worked pretty well, both for Ian and for our unnamed until the end of the book murderous werewolf. Which I thought that was a cool wrinkle on werewolf tropes,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then the big thing is just like that you have to be, when you're a Lycan, you have to be werewolf, like edging all the time. You can't wolf to completion.
Yes, you have to edge. You can only edge.
You will be a wolf forever.
Do the withdrawal werewolf
Don't do it.
maneuver.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that doesn't work, Craig.
I know, it's true. The rhythm method is the best way to become a werewolf.
Jesus.
So like, wait, so she's hanging out with Billy Fingers. He shows up like Batman and is like, Billy Fingers sucks. Get out of here, Billy.
Yeah.
What are you doing again?
Well, because Billy's supposed to take her to this perfumer.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The one who literally chomped her flavor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. What a dick. Right?
Right.
So Ian shows up. He like drops from the fucking roof or something.
Yeah.
Like it's real Batman. You're right about that.
Batman, yeah.
And he's like, I can't believe you would go anywhere without me. And she's like, I can't believe you were following me. And he's like, I told you I was going to. Shut up. So they fight back and forth quite a bit. And then he's like, is there any chance, like, you're going to stay out here. You can stay here, but like, I'm going to go into the actual perfume shack. And I think, isn't this where we get the banter about like, I like you too much or something like that?
I think this is where it starts. Because like once they start like buddy copying around, they start having like it starts in the bar and then continues, but just like a variety of getting to know you moments where we learn more about like Ian's backstory as like this exile wolf king. Yes. And we get a little bit more about like Daisy and her sisters and her bad marriage.
The big thing with Daisy too is that like society has shunned her. Society also thinks badly of her, which is fun because Ian thinks society is stupid.
Yeah.
That's partly because her husband was bad and partly like, and I feel like this has got to be a romance trope too, but like she loves sex and society is like, you can't do that.
Honestly, I think these books kind of buck the norm of historical romances because often, especially in older ones, like, 15, 20 years ago and older, you're going to usually have some kind of like blushing virgin who is being taught the ways of sex by some rakish duke. And one thing I really like about this series is that none of them are virgins. They all know what they want, know what they like, and they go for it, which is kind of, especially in historical romance, is kind of a newer, refreshing trend.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do really like that about her.
Yeah.
So the big thing that comes out of the perfume shop, right, is they find a lady who died from disease.
Yep. The lover's disease.
A lover's disease.
The French lover's disease.
She's real syphilitic, everyone.
To be explicit about it.
Yeah.
She's gross.
And the perfumer is dead also. Was he killed?
He's dead of wolf.
He's dead of
She's
wolf.
Yeah,
dead of
he's been eviscerated.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's dead of syphilis and he's dead of being killed by a werewolf.
I'm so glad you guys are like equal levels of like kind of mildly confused by some of this, because I was real sweaty about it coming in. I wasn't totally sure about all the details.
This scene and all of the Winston, whoever I am, Poppy's husband, I'm from a different book series, but I got grafted into these ones.
I'm the one person in these books who doesn't know that everybody has superpowers.
Yeah.
Oops.
Those chapters were also confusing. The part where it was like a Law and Order episode was confusing to me.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yeah. But the other thing from the perfume shack that's important is that Ian finds this unicorn, wolf,
Pin.
I don't know, badger pin.
Everybody's finding their
situation.
like Comic-Con enamel pins everywhere, and they all like mean very different specific things.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's like, the only person who has one of these, like, I buried mine with my dead son, everyone. Don't worry, there's a dead son.
Yeah.
And
Awesome, love it.
my brother has the other one. So now Ian's thinking that his brother is behind the were attacks. His brother is currently the king of all werewolves because Ian besmirched them. He was like, no, that's not the right word. He was like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Ian was like, I don't know. I don't want it. And then the Wolf Clan, like, there's no room in their wolf society, I guess, for someone who should have been the king but didn't want it. And so he's allowed to like live in their territory, but he isn't part of their society anymore. And we hear through like various like supernatural contacts that Ian still has that it seems like most people, up to and including literally Queen Victoria, do secretly want him to be Wolf King instead of his brother.
Because the current Wolf King is like really bad at being
really
a Wolf
bad.
King.
And like when
super awful.
He's not great at it.
the way that the book tells us about this, and I love this. I highlighted it. I laughed at it. It was my favorite thing. Is Ian goes to meet his brother, the Bad Wolf King, and you know that he's bad because he's doing the classic, like lounging on the throne with like his foot hanging off the side, and you know that's how you know he doesn't care about this like he should. You know,
Nope.
he's the bad boy king who doesn't
He
play by
doesn't
the rules.
respect the literal throne.
Ian
That's
bit back a
right.
sneer of disgust as he stopped before the dais. Connell lounged upon the throne as if it were a bed, one long leg thrown over the armrest, his booted foot swinging in idle rhythm.
It was swinging, everyone.
Swinging in idle rhythm. He might as well be like swilling a glass of wine like Dracula in a Castlevania game. Like it's very...
the audacity, you know?
I will say that usually when a man lounges on a throne like that in a romance novel, that
It is
that is a good thing for me from my personal perspective. It does not in this book pan out for me, but usually that guy is.
I will say historically, we're into that guy.
Historically, Mel and I are fans of that guy.
That
not
character
this time.
can also be somebody who needs the love of a good woman to get him to take his like position in society seriously. Now that is not the case with Bad Boy Wolf King, but there are a lot of ways to use this extremely specific pose that she has evoked.
Yes.
The thing that happens, okay, so like Andrew alluded to the brief section that I don't think we need to dwell on where he goes and visits a vampire lady and she's like, I think you'd make a great king.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Didn't
we
they
have to go
smooch
back to the
outside
romance?
the perfume shop?
Yes.
Well, yes.
After they go outside, there is the first kiss, and I will not skip over it.
As soon as they get to a part of London that's less stinky than the part with all the dead bodies, they're like, man,
This
I
is
cannot.
I really thought this was interesting. The thing that precipitates the first kiss is he has some sort of memory attack where he smells some stuff and then just like loses it completely.
Yeah, he has a PTSD anxiety attack moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
She smooches it right out of him.
No, that's not true. She makes fun of him. And so he's standing there being like, God, she's going to pity me. And there's like nothing that kills my boner more than somebody's pity. And then she's like, are you like coming or are you just going to stand there all day? And he's like, oh, woman, you're the best thing that's ever been on this earth. And then he does kiss the crap out of her.
Yeah, I read it as her like taunting him to get him out of it. Like, she's like,
that's their dynamic.
And the only thing he knows is to smooch. So he smooches her and she starts smooching him back. And he says, Jesus, she knew what she was about.
Yes.
And then she thinks like that he tastes like caramels, and she's like, boy, I sure love caramels. He tastes just like caramels.
Yes, salty and sweet. Love it.
Yumtown.
And I also really appreciated in Firelight, their first kiss was just tongues.
It was
and
just
it involved
licking,
a masquerade.
right?
Matt, it was
All
just
tongue.
licking on each other's tongues, which was very confusing and like
Poor Erin over there.
it was difficult for me. So I was really glad that it was just like a regular type smooch with like lips. And like moving heads around, normal stuff.
I just imagine Kristen Callihan like just on Wikipedia looking up like, okay, how's kisses work? How do I write about it? The only thing people keep complaining about how I wrote about this tongue kiss. So I need to figure out how people do this.
I listened to your episode and I was like, wow, that licking thing sounds wild. And then like I was really struck multiple times in this book where people lick each other.
I can't wait to talk about when it happens. I can't wait. We're going to get to the library so soon. We just have to keep motoring.
We gotta go fast.
They go to a party.
They go to a garden party. Yeah.
To track down someone else who had this illicit perfume.
Yeah. Because she's going to get murdered.
She's going to get killed.
Mm-hmm.
So they go there. There's a moment where we see Daisy being shunned by society in action, and he comes over and he's just like, patooey on your society. Like he says something about bollocks.
He says
bug.
he says bugger off, and she's like, oh,
bugger off.
shit,
That's
you
the
said
one.
bugger off?
I'm handsome enough. I'm handsome enough that I do not need to care about society.
Yeah.
And everybody at the party looks around and they say,
That's what Andrew always
got
says.
a point.
He's got
It's like triple nobility. He has like 2 man titles and 1 wolf title.
One wolf
So,
title,
yeah. Nobody's coming for Mr. Northrop.
All right.
So, okay, so then, there's a big kerfuffle. Oh, noes. Howl in the night. And so they take off to go find out what did happen. They find a super bloody lady who was wearing that perfume, and it's sad.
She's not dead, though.
She doesn't die. Yeah, that's a nice. And Ian goes off into the bushes to find out where the werewolf is, and everybody else is like, he's always around when somebody gets attacked. And then they're like, who was with him? Oh, that's Strumpet Daisy, formerly Craigmore. So she takes off because she's like, I'm not trying to get caught up in all of this nonsense. She has to abandon her carriage because of a tree branch. Yep. There's another howl. Yep. The horse goes whinnying away. And then she's in a cemetery, everybody. She's trucking through a cemetery on foot. I mean, meanwhile, howls and lopes around different places with other wolves and stuff.
Because she still stinks like the perfume. So she's
she
like,
does.
oh no, this werewolf is definitely after me right now.
Which he is.
Question. Oh, right. No, she just still stinks from it from like days ago, even when she showered.
they cover their butts on this.
Got it.
Because she's like, what if I just stopped wearing it?
That perfume?
Yeah, she's like, what if I just stopped wearing it? And Ian's like, you wore so much of it, it would
Ian's
take
like,
days.
I remember that.
Ian's like, you're an idiot. We both smell the same stinks. You know that it's going to take days for this to wear off.
You know you smell like sunshine, Daisy.
Yep.
Okay.
Grass. Yeah.
Grass.
Okay. So she starts hearing these voices.
Yeah.
That
and
are like,
werewolf starts coming at her.
Help you.
We
We're the
want
voices.
to protect you.
And she's like smearing like dirt on herself, and she was like, "Man, dirt is gross, but boy, do I want to snack on it, and I don't understand why it smells so good."
Oh my gosh, do I have pica? I don't know.
Or vitamin D deficiency, which does make you crave dirt. And she just smears it all over her, and
and then like she hears these teeny tiny voices. Let us help you.
But I thought it was dead people, but it wasn't. It was trees. It was like in The Happening when they're all like ganging up and like making decisions together. They're like, please let us. But she still doesn't get it.
I don't think you both realize how often Craig references the movie The Happening to me.
Hi, Craig.
Of absolutely nothing.
No, man.
Did you like to be best friends?
Yeah.
Go through the scientific method together. I love The Happening. Podcast
that movie's
over.
so fucking busted.
Craig.
Why does Everyone look dead straight at the camera.
Why is the slow motion? Why is hot dogs? Why is so many things in that movie? Oh, God. And we're supposed to believe that Mark Wahlberg is a scientist?
Yeah.
Oh,
the least believable thing in any movie ever.
Makes sense to me.
Let's pause to do the scientific method. Oh, God, I love it. Oh, I love that movie.
There's a werewolf fight in this graveyard.
Yes.
So Daisy does accidentally make a bunch of vines grow in front of her. She does make a wall, and then she hides in a...
Hey, HBs. I started an Etsy store. Did you know? Right now, it's full of all the St. Vincent items you need. Because St. Vincent is thoughtful and cozy all year round. We've got a book sleeve to keep your books, planners, e-readers, or really anything else safe when you're on the go. The inside is fuzzy, and they feel so incredibly lush in your hands. I went round and round with the manufacturers to make sure I had just the right thickness. Those feature art of St. Vincent and Evie during their carriage adventure that was painted by the amazing Mayara Faraz on one side, and then I created a St. Vincent Would Always wreath on the other side that has a bunch of little Easter egg items in it. There's a St. Vincent Would Always warm brick enamel pin. It's if you know, you know. I designed a special edition Marriage of Convenience candle that is specific to Devil in Winter, with the help of HB Jen at Post Pouring Company. It combines dark amber for St. Vincent and rosewood for Evie, and it smells so delicious. It's hard to even wrap my brain around. So if you want to treat yourself or be the St. Vincent you want to see in the world by getting a care package for a friend, check out our Etsy store. The link is in the show notes.
Above ground grave thing.
An ossuary, sure. I think is maybe the word.
Yeah.
A place to put bones.
All right.
That's the one.
It's one of those words I only know from video games.
Yeah.
Oh. So then she hears a howl and a yip and a fight, and she goes out there to find out what happened. Meanwhile, we switch to Ian's perspective, and he does get darted right in the chest. And so now he's like, oh my gosh, my clan does know all about it. My brother is behind it. And then she comes out, and she's like, hey, Ian, you're hurt. Can I help you? And he takes the dirt out of his chest and he's like, stay away.
Yeah.
I'm not in my right mind. Mm-hmm. And she's like, no, but you're hurt. I want to bandage you and
he
pet you a little
accidentally slams her head against the ground.
Listen, he does do the tiniest accidental sexual assault.
A itty bitty little
This is like that
minor
kidnapping from earlier. It barely counts. It's not.
This often happens. This happened with Bill and Sookie. This happens all the time. It's totally fine.
It is a
this
big
is a paranormal trope.
Sometimes Sookie gets raped in a graveyard, and sometimes that happens to Daisy too.
Jesus.
Honestly, I watched that scene multiple times. Erin, she's into it. It's not. She's just surprised.
No. Oh no.
But this one is okay. It pays off they have chemistry and easily any sort of caregiving. A lot of caregiving happens in this book between the two of them, and so this is another moment thereof. But he is part wolf right now. And when she gets close to him, he's like, I gotta jump on you, and oops, we're on stones, and I banged your head in the ground. Mm-hmm. I told you not to do that.
Well, because they're the two things that are going on is they are both I don't know if I can be in a relationship right now. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I can let this other person know all the weird shit about me, which are two, those are the two relationship things.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so then also, I think this scene is really, really important because even though he is pretty much completely wolfed out, he is on the edgiest edge of this edge.
Yep.
She whacks him and she's like, get away from me because she's being attacked. And she's also triggered from her previous relationship. Both of those things are happening at the same time. And he immediately stops and backs away and is beside himself. He's like, oh no, I didn't, did I hurt you? And she's like, no. And he says, I did hurt you. I can see that I hurt you. And that's abhorrent. And then in her inner monologue, she's like, I know what abuse looks like because I experienced it with my former husband. This was not abuse. This was him literally telling me, don't come near me. Me not understanding, doing the thing, and then, being
harm happened.
Being attacked.
Yeah.
So, So it's very, very layered. So anyway, they go back to his house. Oh, wait, just real quick. This earlier conversation reminded me of one of my favorite lines in the whole book, and it happens in one of the first scenes where he says something like, maybe I'm interested in you. And she says, I think you like your women unavailable and subservient, and I am neither.
That was good.
Oh, so good. Okay.
They go back to his place.
They go back to his house. Yeah.
And it's like, what? At this point, they have a clear connection. There's an understanding that someone out there might be, someone in his clan might be controlling the werewolf that's killing people because they all got darted.
The only people who have these darts is the Ranulph
darts
clan. Yeah, Ranulph darts.
She knows that in the middle of the night he snuck up to her room in order to sleep in front of the door because he was very worried about her. And then the next morning they have this really, really intense conversation in which he's like, I don't know how to apologize for what happened, but I really, really want to. And they sort of dance around it until he reaches for her and she does like the tiniest flinch. And so he abandons ship and he does go to the library, which is important to me, Melody.
Yes.
So
that's where the books live.
That's where the back rubs live also.
So she goes in there and she's like, what the fuck was that? I know I hurt your feelings somehow. Why did you just leave that conversation? And he's very like, let me brood in peace. And so she goes up to him and she does start rubbing his shoulders. She makes him take off his
cravat. Yes.
First, before she starts rubbing his shoulders, she does say, this is something I used to do for my abusive dad, which weird. I didn't love. When you start doing such things to a person and you say, I used to do this to my abusive dad, just keep that in your brain parts. Don't say it out loud.
You don't even need to put the word abusive in there. You're just like, this is a very sexy thing that I used to do for my dad.
No.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, don't evoke that figure.
No, if you have that thought, just keep it in your brain and don't say it out loud.
You know how to do it, and you don't need to tell everybody how you know how to do it.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
She's giving him the sexy dad back rubs. And it is indeed very sexy. Because his shirt is off and all of his muscles are there, and there are a lot of metaphors comparing his muscles.
Noises.
Yes.
Various
snarls.
His muscles are compared to a variety of like firm materials, which is very important.
Yes.
And
that's true.
And then some folks from the Castle
he grabs her
Ranulph.
hand, Andrew.
Okay, all right, fine.
I know what Melly wants to talk about.
I'm trying to blast through the like werewolf kingdom subplot stuff because I don't think we as a group are as interested in it, but we do have to talk about it.
We're not there yet, though.
But yeah, sure. Something happens.
Yes, please.
Yes. Go. Okay. So she's doing this massage. At the end of the massage, he's all like, a loose noodle. And he's like, oh, I'm so relaxed now. And so he grabs her hand and he says, Daisy Meg, I vow to you that I will never hurt you again. And I will keep you safe, even if I die doing it. But the most important thing about this exchange is that he does then kiss her palm. But then he's so overcome that the kiss does turn into like a teeth scrape, and then the tooth scrape turns into a full palm lick.
There's some,
and then the palm lick turns into a very intense finger suck.
Some finger sucking.
And listen, it was a big swing, and I loved it.
Yeah, I would like to go on the record as trash for this. I loved it. I am on the record as loving a palm kiss and loving a tooth wrist scrape, which happens more often than you guys would think in a romance novel. But then I was like, okay, then now it's done. And then it wasn't. And now I have to go on record.
That's when he
takes it to an 11.
A whole hand lick. Slash suck.
I'm glad that we dug into this because then the next thing that happens is, as Andrew was saying, the Ranulphs show up. And this book is really good about, they're getting ready. Blue balls. There's so many blue ball scenes.
There's a lot of blue balls.
In this book.
Blue balls.
So Andrew, the Ranulphs.
It's very important.
The Ranulphs show up. What happens?
a big fight scene happens.
He kills
There is a decapitation.
Yeah. He does kill one of the werewolves who have. The werewolves come and it's been established before that as like an exile, he cannot just like go visit the werewolves unless he's been expressly invited. So these goons.
I guess this counts as an invitation.
Yeah. They show up and they say, "Hey, King wants to see you," and then there's a big fight, and he does literally kill a werewolf. And this is, I think, the clearest look we've gotten so far at like the super fast Wolverine werewolf healing powers, because everybody does kind of heal really quickly from everything that happens to them, both in this scene and in the next scene, except for the guy who got his head cut off because he's dead. He's dead as hell.
Right. So. It is the only thing that really messes up immortality.
Not having a head.
Getting that
well, it's one of three things.
You can regenerate all your limbs, but not that one.
You can get your head cut off. You can get syphilis before you're 30.
Whoa! Spoilers, Andrew.
Sorry.
How dare you?
Well, we talked about
that was part of the
werewolf mechanics. Is like you're immune from disease unless you do get it during a time in your life when you're very susceptible to disease.
Before maturation,
That's the
Andrew.
word they use.
Okay,
fine, sure. So they go to Werewolf Castle. And Ian's brother Connell is sitting there on the throne with his leg kicking over the side. And that's how you know he's a shitty king and everybody knows it.
Yeah.
He's just a careless.
He doesn't know anything about this murderous werewolf. He's
like, what are you talking about?
Because no clue. It is part of the Ranulph's job. And this is very Twilightian. Like I got big Volturi vibes from these guys.
I got Volturi vibes from the SOS.
They also have a Volturi
introduced
sort of
in the vampire scenes. Like there's a whole anybody supernatural has to take care of bad supernatural people.
From the SOS is a body that like Ministry of Magic-esque is responsible for keeping all the non-magics from knowing about any of the magic.
Yeah.
And then part of the Ranulph's job, which is the Volturi thing, is that if anybody starts breaking the rules or killing people or doing things that might like bring them to the attention of the normal people, then the Ranulphs are supposed to be in charge of that. So one of the like the central mystery of the book that isn't related to like finger sucking or like dad rubs.
Sure.
Nothing mysterious about that, bud.
Yeah.
Good one. Yeah. Very straightforward.
Is Ian does not know why this werewolf is killing people with impunity in Sherlock Holmes era London.
Correct.
Yeah.
Without being stopped by
the Ranulph stepping in.
Yeah.
You gotta put him down, especially since he now knows that the family dart is involved.
Yes.
Yeah.
The family dart is here. They don't give these darts out to just anybody. They're family darts.
There's like the crest on them and stuff.
Yeah. One of many like pin adjacent things that serves as
it's like when Tony
plot.
Stark sees the missiles that have the Stark Enterprise name on them. It's like, oh no,
absolutely.
I did this to myself.
Poignant.
So what else happens in this scene? Like they
punish him.
There's this they punish him. There's this power struggle, and then like at the end of it, they're like, okay, you kill a guy. You did, like, we're gonna let you go. You're fine, but you did kill a guy, so now you got to be punished for it. Mm-hmm. And so Connell sets up this thing where all the other werewolves in Werewolf Town are gonna come and kick the shit out of Ian.
There is a ceremonial beatdown.
Yeah, a ceremonial beatdown. And it should be said, Daisy is there.
Yes.
They're going to make her watch.
She hates it.
She hates it.
She's not into it.
And he's getting shredded up. And there's like this description later where one of Ian's like his like sidekick guys,
Talent,
like Talent, who is kind of a cool character who we don't get to know as much about as I would like to. He talks about good. They talk about how they transport Ian after the scene happens, and they've wrapped him up in a blanket so they don't lose any pieces of meat.
Yeah,
like pieces of his skin meat. But just as it becomes clear that Connell is not actually going to let him live after this, Daisy gets really upset and earthbends again and like literally skewers some werewolves with roots and like
very
kills
sharp
them.
roots.
And Connell, the werewolf king, runs away with the tail literally or figuratively between his legs. I'm not sure how werewolfy he is at this moment, but
her plant voice like talks to Wolf Connell and is like, "Get out of here, Wolf. Go home," which makes more sense when later there's a scene where the three elemental sisters get together and Poppy, the one who knows everybody has special powers, is like, "Yo, our mom had nature powers, and she used to talk to animals all the time." So like that makes sense here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we get a whole like we have to let Ian heal. It takes about 12 hours or so.
Well, but this is important for their relationship because so far, like we've talked about like all the caring for each other that happens between these two characters that sort of accelerates the bond that they are having in between all their like fighty flirty stuff that they're doing. And this is really the first moment where Ian has needed the care because he has just been shredded. Like he rubbed a cheese grater against him.
He tells her not to stop touching him, and so she never stops touching him for the whole time that he's healing, which is 12 hours, which is like, she had to pee she had to pee and didn't. And I just feel like that's true love.
That's love right there. Yeah, so when he does heal, though, boy, is he shirtless. And he
she thinks of all the places she wants to lick on him once he is healed.
And she talks about how because he's not wearing any clothes and you can just see like a hint of pubes.
She's like,
just a hint.
She's like, I wish I could keep putting my hand down to the bulge that lies beneath the
something about like sizable bulge or like generous bulge. It was
it's clear. Listen, it's clear that he's packing some stuff.
Also,
there.
He gets bigger when he's in the moon. Like, let's talk about have we thought about that?
Craig, have I thought about that?
We thought about that, of course. He swells under the moonlight.
That's the one. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then they have this very important conversation where he admits to her that like he doesn't want anything to do with clan politics. He walked away from that because he wishes he could just be a normal man. And she can feel the pain that's underlying that statement. And so she says, I don't know that I would be interested in you if you were a normal man. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the first times where we see his character begin to like start the self-acceptance process. And it's one of the only reasons that like the climax at the end works out. I think it's planted here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because one of the pillars of his character is that the man always fights the wolf. The wolf is always trying to get out. The man is trying to suppress it. And so it's always this fight. And she's saying, I enjoy both sides of you. I enjoy all of it.
Yes.
And so, man, they do a makeout. And he says, Daisy, when they had me, when I was being ceremonially beat down and tortured and stuff, all I could think about was this: touching you, tasting you, kissing you,
he says that when he does like a big cheek caress. It's good.
Oh, yeah.
He does.
It's good stuff. And then why do they have to? Then they stop because
she has a migraine.
She gets a migraine hard.
That was the first, because this is halfway through the book, and this is the first time when I was like, "Come on,
Andrew!"
Like, come
she
on!"
had a long day. She was very stressed, and as somebody who does get oral migraines, I really appreciated the representation.
Yeah.
I appreciate the representation. He was like a pile of ground chuck like half an hour ago.
And he's ready to go.
And he's ready to go. And I'm like, when are they gonna get to the fireworks factory? When are they gonna slam each other?
I know. I hear you. I understand. Like, you're speaking our language.
We know this plight well.
Yes. But it is really important here because it's the first time that he sees that she truly cares about him and not just in like the I want your bod way. Because the migraine is actually spurred by her thinking, like reliving
what
his
happened
trauma.
to him.
Right. And being like, don't you ever let them hurt you like that again, et cetera, et cetera.
She has a lot of fists on his chest. Stop it.
No, it's all very important. And several chapters later, when they do finally do something to completion, it is like, it works.
So a couple quick
that
hits.
It took as long as it did.
Quick hits. He climbs
off.
He climbs Big Ben, thinks about his dead son.
He does.
First he talks about how
No,
some people call it Big Ben.
Yeah,
a bunch of like
I was unclear that it was his dead son at this time.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of deliberately not definitive. He's just like somebody fell,
because we get through little bits of flashback and like talking to Daisy. Like there are little snippets that we get of his life. Like we get his wife Una, who we
hear about later. Yeah.
We like there are two things that happen. One is that he's immortal and she was not. And so obviously that creates problems. And then there are the circumstances of their breakup, which only becomes clear a little bit after you like hear about her.
Yeah.
Right.
And then also we have his son, who, I mean, we've heard about like how rare it is for werewolves to reproduce at all. It's like it happens very infrequently. Mm-hmm. And Lycans are almost always males. Like it's rare for a female Lycan to happen at all. So it's mostly men who are having sex with human women, and then this whole thing happens. But like,
don't hate it.
Yeah.
Sure. Like, you know,
he has lost a son who like killed himself before he was immortal enough to survive from it.
Yeah.
Right.
Or so we are led to believe.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun. But yeah, those are just to elide over a few things so we can spend more time talking about all the like the suck
all
it
the good
and
stuff.
We got to talk about the carriage scene,
the nipple play,
Yes.
and all the
before
cool
we
stuff
get
that happens.
we get to the carriage scene. She goes to the bookshop. Her sisters are like, "Don't hang out with that dude." She's like, "Whatever."
And also, all of us have powers,
Yeah.
and our mom had powers, and it's fine.
Winston, the detective, gets attacked by a werewolf, and an angel saves his life. We don't learn more about that.
The next book is Poppy and Winston.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a marriage, second chance.
cool.
Their marriage is
trouble.
falling apart. They get back together.
Ian takes Daisy to a shitty boat and makes her hang out with a guy named Lucian and a woman named Mary Chase. They are, okay, how do people feel about this? They are GIMs. They are ghosts in the machine. Is it Jim or Gim? Where do we think it goes?
No.
What a controversy.
I was going to ask what you
I
thought.
will say,
I think it's Gims. Yeah. Like Gims.
I heard Gim, yeah.
I know
like
it's
Gims.
supposed to
audio.
be
Did anyone
but
listen to the audiobook?
I did not.
I did
Yes.
not know.
I have two things to say. That the
Okay.
audiobook narrator calls them Gims.
Okay.
Okay.
Because for a long time I thought it was Grims, but because I listened to it like double speed, but it's Gims.
Okay,
And
that's
that
canon.
also she does an accent for Lucian that I would call a French Cajun accent that I would call valiant and brave.
Yeah, he's a Southern American, they say. And
Yeah,
in
he's from New Orleans.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
And this is another bit of world building that I found really impressive and also exists only to set up a thing that happens at the end of the
yes,
book.
Yeah.
these are soul thieves.
So he goes to visit like ghost spies so he can have them spy on his Wolf King brother to figure out if he's lying about not knowing about the werewolf and why he's lying.
Yes.
And then also they just kind of like one of the ghosts grabs the other one's like ghost dick, and Daisy's like, "Whoa,
And
they have
Ghost
not
And Ghost
they have
Tit.
not invented YouTube or like porn, like video porn yet, but I am into this. This is
I'm
doing
seeing
it
it.
for me." Yes.
Mhm.
She also gets felt up by a specter.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he does go insane. And he
Yes.
almost kills Lucian's vessel,
Sure.
his body vessel that
Yeah.
he has stolen.
It is important that these guys are
It
like
is.
immortal. God, I trapped myself into explaining another thing.
This is awesome.
Immortal
I can't wait.
ghosts inside like meat puppet,
Yeah.
steampunk
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they have
steampunk
very
machine puppets.
like intricate little like
gears.
watch gear style like hearts inside their bodies. And if they don't do enough good like soul harvesting for the ghost bosses,
Yeah.
I guess their mechanical heart just
They have
stops.
a ghost boss
Yeah.
named Adam,
Love it.
who I think
Love
has
it.
other books or pops up in another book because he's super
I think so
powerful
too, yeah.
or something like that.
Well, Mary Chase has her own book, and
Yes.
she,
Yep.
I think, gets with the valet
And
talent.
she's the one who ultimately gets hired to do the job for Ian, which is Go Spy on My Brother. And the deal they negotiate, which everyone in the supernatural world wants, is Ian, you gotta be Wolf King, bud.
He'd be such
Can
a good
you
wolf
just
king.
be the
You
Wolf
gotta be
King,
king.
please?
We want to bend the knee.
And we will help you become Wolf King, knowing that you will owe us one, and like we will have a we will have like a direct line to the king, and
Right.
you can represent
even,
us.
Like at that point, they don't even want special treatment. They just want like an unbiased hearing when they have issues that involve the wolf kingdom for some reason.
And this is a big decision because Daisy knows that he doesn't want to be king, and he agrees to do this so that he can protect her and save her, and that's like a big deal.
It's big romance.
So they do talk about this in the carriage a little bit. And she's like, I'm not worth it. And he says, I'll show you how much you're worth. Also, I did notice how turned on you got. Do you remember how good my nose is? I could smell it.
Smell that you were hot.
I could smell your interest in that ghostly show.
This is something that makes me cringe, and it happens more in romance than you would think. That dudes smell the wanting. I can't even look at any of you. I hate it so much.
I mean,
I love torturing Erin with
but
this.
Melody loves it, and I
at least
hate
they
it.
set up that he has like supernatural
Makes
stink
sense.
smelling powers.
But lots of romance heroes have supernatural stink smelling powers, and they all smell it.
do.
It's so gross.
Well, I mean, so for Daisy, you wouldn't even need to bring that into it because apparently, like from her face down to her boobs, she just turns like bright pink
Flushes.
every time that she gets turned on at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she has copious bosoms to turn red.
She does
Yes,
have tiggle bitties, as we have established.
They are large.
prior to
Yes.
this. Yes.
Yeah.
They do sway a lot in this scene.
Yeah. So
And
they're
then-
in this
now what
moving
happens?
carriage on the way
Craig,
home.
tell me what happens in this carriage.
Okay. They're in this carriage on the way home from the barge, and she's working through some of her, as you were talking about, Melody, working through some of her I don't deserve this stuff.
Right.
And he's like, nah, you do.
You deserve the world.
So first, let me take my wolf claw and rip open your bodice and be like, wow, these boobs need to be exposed all the time. This sucks. Society
time.
sucks for
Forever.
containing your boobs.
Get them out there.
These are great boobs.
And then he's like, oh man, you got to hike up all 15 of the skirts you're wearing so that you can...
Well, wait, let's not rush to the skirts.
Yeah,
there is
Craig, there's a
3
lot of
pages
nipple
some
stuff that happens.
very
Right, there's a lot of
nipple
nipple
play.
stuff. Sorry, there's a lot of nipple stuff.
There's all this. There's we got to talk about both sides.
You do, yeah.
There's-
You lick
There's
each
teeth
boob.
and there's lick and there's tweaking. There's stuff.
And you
that
talk about like
happens.
the way that the nipples react
Bop it,
to it and
pull
how they
it,
still
twist
and how they
it.
still
Yeah.
yes,
Twist it,
exactly.
jump it.
And he works his way down. He's a very generous lover and caregiver.
I did enjoy how difficult it seems to be for her to get those skirts up, because a lot of times we're reading England Times and Sherlock Holmes' Times books, and those skirts just like
Fly
come
up.
up, and I'm like, that shit would be heavy. There's bones involved with these outfits.
30
Like,
pounds.
it's a lot.
Yep.
So I enjoyed that, like, the carriage and the skirts was like logistically difficult for this woman.
Yes.
But then what happens, Craig?
Yes, Craig.
Well, he gets her to pull the skirts up, and he's like,
And what's under there?
He's like, spread your legs. And he's kind of growling right now. He's being a dog right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Wolf's out.
It's a dog with a bone.
Puppy
if
wants
you
a
will.
treat.
Yikes.
Would you like me to read
Please,
We would love it.
please do. He
would
goes
one
to
of my
town.
favorite
Yes, please.
sections?
Yeah.
Sure. All right. He says, lift them high and show me your sweet cunny, Daisy Meg. I have not heard cunny in a very long
I
time.
did highlight that line. That did stick out to me.
Okay. So then we go from ankles to shins. Like this is a show. And then he says, spread your legs, just like Craig said. And then
did say that.
says his the scent of her desire made his head light. Her hips came forward on the seat. The white length of plump, linen-covered thighs opening like flower petals to the sun. Wider, he said, when the shadowed apex of her thighs remained hidden to him. And then I gotta go down. He talks about his cock throbbing and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Like
We're
whatever.
sorry, overdue listeners.
It's fine.
this is my
important.
favorite thing.
They love this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it says, God, his hands shook as he put them on her thighs, framed by the slit in her combinations and the nest of honey gold curls. Pink lips as pouty and plump as her mouth glistened in the dim light. I could eat you alive, he says.
And he does.
And then he did.
Yeah, and then he did.
And then he does go right to it.
And then
one.
She starts doing the like, nah, we got to move on to the next bit. And he does the whole like, what do you want? What do you want?
He makes her say it.
Yeah. Yes. You need to say it.
And they run out of time.
And she does say it, and then almost
they run out of time?
Almost, because the coach stops. Like just as it talks about how he is just barely able to get in there, and then the coach stops.
There is a one full penetration, poor things. Yep. And then before they can get any other movement on, her sister is outside.
The guy driving the coach is like, excuse me.
Hey, is there any, can
we back there? We got excuse me.
You really got to stop.
They keep going until he says it like 5 times, and then until
he's
he's
like, "Man, I put a tie on the door handle. Like, I don't know what. I don't know how to make this clearer for you."
I also love that he puts a jacket over her. They come out of the coach. And her sister's clearly upset, but the first thing that happens, Daisy's like, "Don't you fucking judge me. I will do what I want."
Right.
I was screaming in that carriage.
Yeah.
But she has bad news.
But yeah, she brings bad tidings. Winston has been attacked.
Yeah.
So they go over and there's a big bedside sick scene. It sets up the third book. And so I was going to say Archer. Ian goes home.
Yeah.
And I really loved this because he says, like, he's thinking about what happened in the carriage and he doesn't mind the chase. And then he thinks to himself, but it would be really nice for once to be chased in return. And then, boom, carriage comes up.
She shows up.
Daisy's there.
Question.
Yes?
Yeah.
Poppy is mourning the, like, imminent death of her husband, Winston.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
But he's going to be fine.
And
probably.
that he saw her charm and knows that she might have been lying to him about her superpowers.
But it's like complicated.
Listen, this is a very distressing moment for Poppy.
Yeah.
Either husband dies or is like physically debilitated forever or lives and hates her forever due to her lies.
And also knows that she's been lying. She does know he knows.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Daisy leaves her sister in that moment to be like, gotta go fuck this guy. And I found that to be very problematic.
Listen, okay, first of all, she left her with the other sister.
Yeah,
she's
Miranda's
not
there.
alone.
It's fine.
I just love that she's just like creeping out like,
I
see the situation.
I also really like that
and
Poppy was like, I get it, you gotta live your truth. She literally says something like, you gotta be true to yourself.
That is true.
Okay, and right now, myself needs to get doinked.
We smash cut to Ian walking around with
boyfriend.
a raging heart-on in his own house.
He's got such a big boner that he's like breaking glassware.
And then she comes
That's all
in.
true.
They have sex. It's very good sex.
Finally.
Good stuff.
Yes.
Finally.
And then they try to
Everyone
have
says.
sex again.
Yes.
And
Because he's a
like,
werewolf. He can just keep going.
And he's
that
like,
is a werewolf trait.
And he's like, why don't you ride me? Which seems fun. But then he gets a little overexcited. And he is a werewolf, so he does want to do it doggy style.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to do
Actually, in werewolf lore, that is the only way that a werewolf can claim their mate.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do it doggy style, and then
they have to
do
bite
a pretty
you on the
severe
shoulder.
bite
God.
on like the shoulder neck area, and then like that's the claim.
Now you're mates.
Usually they do need to bite you mid climax, if at all possible.
Sure.
I do listen.
It's a delicate dance.
I do like that a lot better than the Stephanie Meyer version where you are a werewolf and you see a baby and you're like, that's one hot baby. I'm
That's
gonna
the
love
baby
that.
I
I'm
want.
gonna love
baby
that
with
baby
mascara
forever.
on it. Yeah.
So
That's the one.
But of
in
course,
terms of like in fiction werewolf mating rituals, this one is better.
it's better.
Yes.
But of course, that doesn't go well because he sees her scars from her marriage, where because she was not a virgin when she got married, the guy abused her, and she has like an episode. She has a PTSD episode being flipped onto her stomach.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's triggered.
And he actually handles it really well, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And they reconcile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, because it's there is a moment where you're not sure what's going on, where she like turns over and he's like, "What the fuck?" and she's like, and she like recoils, and you think it's gonna be like, I'm not sure what. There's a whole universe of things that could have happened in this moment, but then it ends up being he is just like
Callihan does that a lot.
that somebody could have done this to her, and it ends up being like a sweet like romance building, character building.
Well, she thinks that he's like recoiling because she's like ugly and
disgusting.
scarred too, and that's
because she's got like years of internalized criticism from her shitty ex-husband.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Well, and there have also been seeds planted that, you know, in the recap we can't really go into, but there have been seeds planted about like the ways in which he abused her. Like in italics, it'll say like held down, you know, all the things, and it's not great. So this position, especially when he has like a surprised, angry reaction, is particularly triggering to her. But yeah, it becomes this thing where she tells him about Craigmore, and she says that, I'm sorry, I'm never going to be beautiful and pristine and all this. Like, the scars are never going to go away. And he says to her, I don't want perfect. I just want you. And he says, like, she's the most beautiful thing in the whole wide world. And, you know, it's a big romance.
It's a big romance.
And then he does now have a bit of an emotional breakdown.
He reveals the sun stuff, right?
Yeah, so they have this little disco nap. And then he wakes up and he decides to go like for a walk in the garden because, you know, he's conflicted about stuff. She comes down and he reveals all the stuff about the sun.
Yeah. And
it's like the sixth time that one of them has woken up without waking up the other and gone on like a solo stroll that exists only to reveal different characters. That's true. Like, I'm not complaining about it. I'm just noting that this happens a lot in this book.
Yes.
And then he's like, okay, cool. Thanks for hearing me out about my son. We have a great relationship.
And so now that we finally know all the stuff about the son, we have this like cut to this other scene where it's obvious that one of the other Lycans is like has the werewolf in captivity.
Yeah.
And is like tormenting him, and then calls him, I forget what the name of
Macon?
Yes.
Macon.
Yes, calls him Macon, and it's clear that his son did not actually die as he had previously thought, and that he has been the werewolf this whole time. So what is left in like the last like climactic bit of the book, what can we kind of elide over, and what do we need to go over in detail?
The big thing is the fight at Buckingham Palace.
That's the one.
And so like the ghost in the machine, the Gim is like, hey, they're at Buckingham Palace. You gotta go there. And so she's back at his house while he goes to fight, and he kills his.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Of course, it's a trap.
Yeah.
But he does challenge his brother, wins the fight, finds out that the second in command, the one who's like older than all of them, has been behind this thing the whole time. Yeah, his brother didn't know about the were.
He's been super tortured about having to kill his baby brother. Like, even though his baby brother is a big dick who sits on thrones wrong, he's still his baby brother. And so he specifically wins this fight in a way that it is indisputable that he has won. He knows it. Everybody who witnesses it knows it. Connell knows it. And he lets him live. And then this like
Lyle.
shitty beta. Yeah, that's literally what it's called. It's not like an incel like
alphas and
vocabulary
betas.
thing. He's called
this
beta.
is pack mechanics.
It's
everyone.
It's pack stuff. He's a pack man, if you will. But this beta kills.
He can give as much money to whoever he wants. Andrew,
yes,
it's true.
And then, okay, you took this in a different direction, and I like that. I like that. Yes, anding each other. And so he also has to kill this beta who reveals to him, right, that his son is
He had like 15 different motivations. I never found a woman. Your dad was cool. You should have been king too. I should have had a son myself, and you hated your son. You would have just killed him. Like, Lyle sucks. That dude sucks.
Lyle sucks. Well, and the important thing about this moment is that he does have to go full werewolf in order to kill Lyle, because Lyle goes full werewolf.
Yes.
So meanwhile, at home, there is a scritchy scratch at the door. And they're very worried about what could be, behind this. She goes downstairs after, Talent goes down to figure things out. Talent's bleeding on the floor. It's bad. And then she sees the werewolf. It's like coming at her. And she's like, before this, she could hear, she can hear what the werewolf is saying because of her nature powers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so the werewolf is like, the poor thing, he just wants to find, the whole time, he just wanted to find his love, because the nurse that they set up for him when he was like very slowly dying of syphilis, They fell in love and they did start banging. She is a nurse who banged a syphilitic patient, and she
happened to be wearing that perfume that she, like, the perfume thing was this big coincidence that like looped Daisy into the story in the first place.
Yes,
and so
that's why that's the
perfumer
common link. Brothers. Yes. Yeah, so she's the perfumer's sister. Anyway, so then when she died, he is in full syphilis madness. And he can't handle that she died. And so he turns into a werewolf, but he keeps smelling her perfume all over London. So he hasn't been meaning to kill everyone.
He's just been like, nomming on them out of love.
Yeah. He's been like, do you taste like her?
Good.
Oh, no. You're not her. I'm extra mad now. So anyway, Daisy's in his brain and he's like, I hurt. Everything hurts. I don't know what to do. And she sort of talks him down and she's like, please let the man come out. I can help the man. So she talks this crazy werewolf into shifting, and Macon, poor thing, looks at her and he's like, he thinks that she is his love who he's finally found. Lucy.
Just super awkward because she like is fucking his dad.
She is banging his dad hard.
But he doesn't know that.
Anyway, it's fine. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Keep going.
Totally beautiful.
Yes.
So he's like, you need to help me. Please go get a silver knife. You told me that you would help me with this. And like, apparently she just died before keeping that promise. Rude. So Daisy goes and does get a giant silver knife.
Big silver knife.
It's not like you keep me alive as long as possible.
Well,
like, that would have been really inconvenient.
Silver knife in his own house.
Weird. That's kind of weird that he would have a silver knife in his house, because earlier the vampire was like, would you like a glass made of bone? And he's like very considerate.
Listen, he needs it for self-defense. People keep guns in their house. Those are lethal to people. He needs it in case another werewolf comes around for self-defense.
That's true. So she holds the knife up because she's like, I can't kill you. And Macon's like, don't worry, just aim it and I will take care of the rest. So she puts the knife up to his heart, and it's his power that does, murder him dead. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, there's a lope coming at the door. Wow, there's another big giant wolf. And she's like, oh no, this wolf has the same azure eyes as
Ian,
my love, Ian. And so at that point, she talks to him and he's like coming over to nuzzle her, because his wolf has only been saying like, keep you safe, have to keep you safe. So she does a big scratch on him, which I thought was adorable.
She gives him nice scratches, yeah.
Yeah, good boy, you did so well. And then she says, please let Ian come back. He knows how to bring you forward. And so you're not going to be stuck behind there forever again. Yeah. Like, we will let you come out again. Because that was her thing earlier. Yeah. Like, maybe if you didn't fight the wolf so hard, it wouldn't be an
irreversible change. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So Ian comes back. He's big naked. I liked that. And they love each other forever at the end.
They do have a moment where he goes, oh no, my son's dead. And she goes, your son's dead.
Did you kill my son?
And she goes, did I kill your son?
Like, what?
And she gives him space, because that's the only thing that she could give him in that moment.
And again, as with the son killing and like the accidental assault from earlier, I feel like they are on a slightly different magnitude, but they do extend each other like a level of like situational understanding that I thought was very big of both of them, where Ian is like, okay, like one, you didn't know it was my son. Two, he was in such pain, and this is what I was going to do for him anyway. Like, it could be this like easy thing to derail them, and so they're derailed, and then you have to have some whole other book where they like reconcile and like get over it and finally get together like they're supposed to be.
Now, Kristen Callihan's not going to do that to us. She is a pro.
No. So they have sex to work through their feelings.
Yes.
She lets him do it doggy style.
Definitely.
Because he literally can't.
Big day.
Big day.
Big day for them.
But they do have a falling out, because she's mortal, and also she has learned that her werewolf bite gave her syphilis.
Yeah, remember the werewolf bite from like 350 pages ago? Yeah, it turns out that is syphilis.
I would love Erin to walk through the choices
Are you going to ask her
that bring us to the end of the book. What?
Okay. Yes, please, Erin.
No, I literally cannot. And I was really excited to hear different people explain all of this.
I can save.
I was so confused. I'm like, wouldn't she have like given him syphilis? And I was like, no, because he was already Lycan, can't get syphilis. And then there's like more like Gim stuff. And like, I was doing a big confused, guys. So I would invite literally anyone else.
I would love to jump in here and okay. So
Andrew,
what are the problems? The two problems. One that has been set up for the entire length of the book, and one that has been set up in the last 20 pages or so. The one is that she mortal, he not mortal.
Right.
That will eventually cause him some big problems when she inevitably dies, because we learned this whole thing about how Una, like, not only did their breakup was bad, but it was like she broke up with him because she's like, I can't look at your young, hot, sculpted bod.
That's right.
And not think of my
I'm
own.
a shriveled raisin.
Yeah, I'm an old lady, and it makes me think of what I used to be.
So
and
weird. I would walk down every street and be like, look at this. Like, I don't get that conflict at all. I'd be like, I'm 85 and check this out.
That's what the shows Cougar Town
flex.
and Younger were both about.
That's true.
Was werewolf romance with a younger, older woman. Okay.
The other problem is she has the same disease as his dead son.
Yeah, and the second problem is she got syphilis, and so she's not only is she going to die, but she's going to do it on a shortened timetable. Let's say,
yeah, accelerated and insane.
Yeah, she's going to go mad.
And so she's like, okay, well, I do love this guy a whole lot.
So
if only there was like a whole like a race of like immortal. An opt-in or immortality clause that had been set up somewhere else in the book.
A fleshy clock monster.
Did I meet somebody who could like tear out my heart and put in a little computer in there and they could make me immortal? And so she does go to the Gimps, and there's this line in there that read to me like, let me find her.
Well, because he thinks that she has gone to a bridge to kill herself and just
and
completely take her off the table.
He hates it when people he loves goes to bridges to kill themselves.
He does really hate it.
Big trigger for him.
She says to him, I went to Lucian, which is the name of the like chief ghost guy, and I did get big, like he went to Jared vibes from that. Like you say you went to Lucian and everybody knows.
Everybody knows you got a clock in your chest out of love.
I went to Lucian. I got a gold clock in my chest. I'm a ghost. I'm not going to die of syphilis. I'm not going to die of anything.
I am now a steampunk meat puppet.
Yeah.
Yes. And I got a really sick, like I got a good coupon code where I only had to trade in one soul and I only have to work for the ghost for like 100 years, which in the scheme of immortality is practically nothing. Because they just want an in with the new werewolf king, which is you.
Yeah.
So they have a big wedding and they get married.
And I didn't have to put a glass window in my chest. They just did a cool.
Oh yeah, because my boobs are so big.
These boobs will not allow it.
These boobs won't allow. And Lucian is in there. And he's like, man, well, we can't mess these things up, can we? And so they sewed her back up, and she doesn't have a little chest window.
Yeah.
So you can.
Erin, you had a.
She just has a very very tasteful gold seed.
Yeah.
Yes. And I would be, if it was me, I would be disappointed because I would want to put a bunch of like cool like LED lights, like flashing lights in my chest window. But that's not a thing that she can do because apparently her breasts were too magnificent to ruin in that way.
I completely agree that was bullshit. I really wanted her to have a glass chest window. I thought those ghost machine boys were in meat puppets of other bodies and not their own bodies. But she got to keep her body.
Mary Chase is not. Yes.
Okay.
There's a user bring BYOB, bring me your own body clause.
Oh, so if you're just a floaty ghost, then you have to do it. But if you still have body,
if you make the decision before your body expires, you can be like, "Hey, sign me up for this plan." And Adam, the spirit puppet, will be like, "You get to keep your body. Cool." You got work for me
That
there.
was
you
the
like
part
that
I
body?
didn't understand. Because isn't that body that she does have, is it not riddled with syphilis?
It's not
Making
riddled
me think
with
that she
it
would
yet.
go
There's just
to
a
a
little tiny
There's
bit
just
of
the tiniest
syphilis in
sore.
there. Yeah.
And
That's what I
One-
didn't understand. I thought she would
one
have to
tiny
ditch
pustule.
this syphilitic body to get a newer model. But
No,
apparently
it's
that's
not like
the case.
werewolves where if you get syphilis before you become immortal, you just like keep having syphilis indefinitely, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
Well, no,
when
because
I
you're-
assume that was the case.
Lucian says, he's like, no, when the souls move into the dying meat puppet, because we move into other dying people bodies, and then when we sign up to work for our machinist god, he fixes the bodies for us so that we have a good body.
Oh, okay. I missed that part.
Yeah.
Thank you, Craig.
Then
That
there's an
really
epilogue
helps.
where they get
Okay.
married and they clearly go off and fuck right after the ceremony. And then there's 2 paragraphs about
Yeah.
Poppy being sad. End of book.
yeah, Poppy's like, I'm sad. My marriage fell
Yeah.
apart. Oh no. Womp womp.
Book
And then
3.
the book ends.
Yep.
Book 3.
And anyway, that's what the song Werewolf of London is about.
Ow. Werewolves are fucking.
Wow, you've been waiting almost 2 hours to make that joke.
No,
That's-
I thought of it like 20 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. It's
Oh,
still a long
perfect.
time.
It's happened.
I
Yeah, it's a
commend you.
while.
As we
Yeah,
wrap up,
thanks.
like this seems like it had all the stuff that y'all liked about Firelight, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Like the
I feel like there were fewer characters, like again, not having read Firelight, but it felt like Firelight was trying to set up a bunch more like ancillary people, and you do meet some of them again in here, but almost all the actual like POV stuff is between Daisy and Ian. Like it's between those two, and you don't have to spend a lot of time worrying about what other people are thinking or doing.
Yeah.
Usually in a romance, you only have the 2 main characters, or, if the people involved in the romance, sometimes there's 3 or 4, but usually you only have POVs of the people who are getting with each other. So that's a little unique, but I think it really helps this series catch you up so that you can read them as standalones, so that you get those other POVs.
I found a quote from her. There's an interview with Biblio Junkies where she talked about in Firelight, Archer is the mystery, but if you've read that story, you know who and what Ian is. So then Moonglow, while being a mystery, is more of a battle between good and evil as they delve into the Lycan world. And I thought that, this did read as like there was a central murder mystery, and listening to y'all talk about Firelight, it was like, what's behind that mask? Can we find out what's behind that man's mask?
Right.
Yeah, even though there was a murder too, it was just they suspected him of it. So solving the murder was also solving the mystery of
I thought briefly that this book was going to go in that direction where they were all at
After
that
the
party
ball,
and
yeah.
everybody. I was like,
Yeah.
wait, does this guy just ran off in the direction of a murder? Have we ever seen him and the murderer in the room together at the same time? I
Right,
don't
right,
know if
right.
we have. But then it didn't do that, which I was happy about. Though we didn't get to like the stupid socialite lady who's like walking around this entire party being like, "Oh, Daisy sucks. Oh yeah, Daisy's totally awful." We don't get to see her get a comeuppance in any way.
Yeah, that's true.
And I hope that happens in future.
maybe
books.
someday. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like that. One of the other things I liked about this book, maybe a little bit more than the other one, is just the focus on the theme of like female pleasure and making sure that's important and it's valid and it's totally great. And the way that Daisy sort of grapples with that, Miranda doesn't really have any of that. So
She has other stuff.
Yeah, from that very first scene, like where she's trying to just get a quick tup in an alley, you know that Daisy is a horn dog.
She's saying,
And
"Hi, I'm
she's-
Daisy. I like to fuck."
Yes.
yeah. Well, and I think that it's also interesting as far as Daisy is concerned. It's interesting to make the choices that Callihan did with her in particular, simply because she's always been the very brash, very witty, quippy, always sort of the sunshine of the room and all of that. And then in this book, you really get to pull back the curtain and see what's underneath all of that, and her insecurities, her pain, her trauma, all of that. So, yeah, I liked it a lot.
It's a fun book.
Yeah, had a lot
What
of
did
fun.
y'all think? People who don't read romance very often.
I mean, I liked all the world building a lot. I will never stop thinking about werewolves being starfish who can just regrow limbs.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I appreciated how it was a genre, like historical, like fantasy novel that also had sex stuff in it. And like, so from our perspective, like 50 Shades is one of our big like touch points. And part of the monotony of that book is how frequently they have sex and how samey and boring it is, like instantly. And yeah, the way that this, like Craig, you and I were talking about it in our Slack channel, and like you were talking about just being impressed by the sheer number of times that they almost and then do not have sex with each other.
Yeah, she really organically sets up a number of situations, and they get a little further each time, as we talked about. But like, and every time they don't, it's because of this incredible escalation of the murder mystery werewolf plot. And so like, I'm frustrated that they don't get to the next part of their physical relationship, but I'm also excited because I'm being rewarded with the next part of the plot, which I'm also interested in because it's a pretty good plot. So like that to me, comparing it with some of the other stuff we've read, comparing it with, you know, stuff like 50 Shades also, that just, it's not just there for like titillation, which it does do, but it is
sex in 50 Shades isn't even sexy at all.
It's not really titillating.
Hot.
Yeah, this
is
the
stuff in this book was like pretty good, I think.
No, the important thing about good romance that I think a lot of people need to remember is that every single sex scene does something for the emotional connection. So every single time that happens, you're watching them build their connection like you would in an organic relationship in the real world. You know, the intimacy builds both emotionally and physically. But I really like that a lot of the best authors, they use every single sex scene to achieve something different in their relationship.
It moves the plot forward. And because in a romance, your A plot is going to be the romance, they need to keep that tension. So this thing of like blue balls, blue balls, blue balls is something you'll see a lot in romance because that tension needs to stay in the A plot as well as the B plot. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's always like that. Often in contemporaries, it'll start with like a one-night stand or something like that. So a contemporary romance, often that seal is broken, but the emotional stuff doesn't get there until the end when everyone's whole. So it's a way of kind of keeping that tension alive in the A plot. Because if they were just like together halfway through the book and like had decided, it was pretty clear once these two like consummated that relationship that the tension was going to be gone.
But I appreciated too like the very organic reasons why both of them had some like real commitment phobia about like actually making this a real thing forever, because they read on it as it reads on the page, it can't be a forever thing, right? So
and they worked through that together. And I hate 50 Shades can't be our only reference point for this.
No, I'm so glad we have a new one.
And this one is much better. But like another dumb, boring thing about 50 Shades is like every third time they have sex, they have some kind of relationship, emotional blow up that results in them like fake breaking up for half of a chapter. And in this one, they pause to be like, wait, let me understand where you are coming from and like talk to you about why that happened, and then we could just like cut past a lot of that dumb bullshit.
And that makes you as the reader feel like they work. You know, then it's two people that you actually want to be together because you can see that they work out things well and they listen to each other and they care about each other.
Instead of like the book ending and like this is supposed to be the happily ever after, but you're confident that if the book went on for 2 more chapters, they would just blow up and break up again.
Well, I was struck when we were talking about the back rub part, and this will, you know, we should probably wrap up soon, but when we were talking about the back rub part, like,
you want to come back to this dad back rub thing.
I was struck when you were, I think when you were talking about it,
rummy daddy,
Erin, is that like
with your good point that you're about to make.
He gets upset and like leaves the room, and instead of jump cutting to another scene or another moment, she just follows him like you would if you were a real person and someone you had feelings about like stormed out of a room in a weird way, and you're like, shut up. Come here. We need to.
You're not like, well, I'm gonna get on my helicopter and fly away from this.
That's
problem.
right.
That's not how the fights are handled, and the sex scenes are not handled. Like, well, I guess this time we'll put ice cream in there. And that'll be different.
If they ever don't get to talk about it, it's because a new magical creature is threatening their literal lives.
Yes, absolutely.
How many awoos would everyone give this book?
Are we out of 5 or out of 10?
How many
What's
out
the
of?
scale?
I don't know.
Can I get half an hour?
Like
if I just say out, is that half a one?
I don't know how to scale. How many awoos?
4.5 out of 5.
Same.
I don't like to give anything a perfect score. Nothing's perfect.
Yeah,
but
it's not my favorite romance novel I've ever read, but it's up there. It was really good, I thought.
I enjoyed it
same.
a lot.
Multiple awoos coming from me.
Fabulous. This was so much fun.
This was super
Thank
fun.
you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
This is a great
Yeah.
suggestion.
If you
Yeah.
want to read more romance, please give us a call. We can throw you some recs, or we're happy to come back.
Absolutely. I don't think this will be our last collaboration.
I do not think so. That's true.
Hey, you. Yes, listener, you. Are you loving the show? If so, please leave a rating and review in your podcast app. The 90 seconds you take to say something nice not only helps new people find the show, but it makes me super smile over at HBHQ. Also, I've had a few people ask, and the answer is yes. We are still doing the 5-star bribe. If you leave us a review with 5 stars, then we'll do whatever book you want. We're real deep into the list, though, so it might be a while. Lilas! Okay, back to the show.